Hi, it's Tanya. Welcome to day 2 of the 5-day Reduce Your Niggles Challenge. Today we are going to be focusing on the lower back, just having a lovely stretch in the lower part of the back, mobilize it a little bit, and then we are actually going to just focus on releasing the front of the hips. So maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but the hips are linked to the lower back. So when I work on the lower back, I always make sure that I work on the hips and the lower back. That's what we're going to do today. So for equipment, I've got a block, so either a cushion or a block for towards the end, but apart from that, you don't really need anything. So we'll make our way onto the back. And we are just going to settle in with a little bit of breathing. Just make sure that I'm not off the mat. And we're going to go through spine alignment first. So what I want you to just be aware of is have your legs bent and just settle, okay? So all I want you to start to notice is the points of your body that are touching the floor. So it will be the head, your shoulders, the middle of your back, the pelvis, and the 2 feet. So starting at the head, notice your chin. Is your chin higher than the forehead? So is your chin up in the air? And what you also might notice is it's quite scrunched up behind your neck. So if you drop your chin towards the throat, now you can feel the neck is nice and long. Okay, so that's the first one. Now focus on the collarbones lengthening, so they're widening. So be aware if your shoulders are in that position. If you find that you are quite stiff around this area, turn your palms the other way around, and I'm going to exaggerate what that will do. It will help to open up the chest a little bit more for you, so you can have your palms facing up. So we have that lower, the middle back down, and you want to have that curve in your lower back. It's a natural curve of your spine. So it's in the lower part of your back, and some people may have a smaller curve, some people may have a bigger curve, okay? Just find that curve there for yourself. And then you'll be looking at your pubic bone and your 2 hip bones, and they want to be level. So imagine you're going to rest a cup of tea there. So if I had the block, it would want to be straight, okay? So you might need to just have a little wiggle away, a little wiggle towards you, and then find that point, and it's going to be the hard part of the pelvis. That's where the weight is going to be, so somewhere around there. Now you have your 2 bony points at the front of your hip. Your knees want to be in line with those bony points, and then your feet they're not directly under the knee, just slightly in front, but they don't want to be wide, so that's causing your knees to go in. Your feet need to be in alignment with the knees. And then that semi-supine position, or in my world, on your back, legs bent, feet hip width apart. So you can keep your hands there or you can have them there. We're just going to start to introduce a little bit of breath and movement. So take a deep inhale. Doesn't matter how you breathe, just breathe. Now, as you breathe out, we'll draw the abdominals in and send your lower back to the floor to take that curve out. And what you'll notice is those hip bones start to come towards the rib cage. Okay, this is called a pelvic tilt. So I really want you to try and draw it in more. So almost like you're trying to hide your belly. But now, just check the back of your legs. You don't want the back of your legs working. So you might need to have a little fundle there. They want to be nice and soft. If they are soft, that's telling you that your abdominals are doing the movement. If you're pushing with your legs, so you can see now my hamstrings are all firing up, then I'm pushing the pelvis and you can see my tummy can relax now. So I'm not really using my abdominals, and we want to use the abdominals. Okay, so you're going to draw in the tummy, send your lower back down, and I want you to think of imprinting your lower back. So really hug that tummy towards the floor. Notice if your shoulders are trying to creep up, just draw your shoulders back and chin stays towards the throat. And then release it back to the starting position. Now we're actually going to take the tailbone the other way. So from here, we're now going to do what's called an anterior tilt. We're going to send your hip bones towards the back of the heels, like you're trying to give yourself a big arch, okay? All we are starting to do now is, if you think of the bones in your lower back, we're just trying to get them to move, like a little bicycle chain. Breathe in, and then as you exhale, draw everything down towards the floor, hug the tummy in, roll your hip bones towards the rib cage, relax the back of your legs and your bum cheeks. And we're just going to do one more anterior tilt. So inhale. Send your tailbone towards the floor, or your heels, and your hip bones towards the heels, having a big arch in the lower back, relaxing your shoulders and your chin. Take a breath. And then exhale, pull it all back down towards the floor. As you come into your pelvic tilt, or your posterior, so we're tilting the pelvis backwards, holding it there, relax your shoulders and your collarbones. Take a breath in. So now when we're hugging the tummy in, the only place you can really breathe is around the rib cage, lateral thoracic breathing. And then as you exhale, can you hug in a little bit more? So really waking up these abdominals. Think of bringing your heart towards your belly button and your pubic bone towards the belly button. Softening those shoulders. Now, keep that position. Can you squeeze your bum cheeks now? So we're going to actively squeeze the bum. As you start to lift your hips up towards the ceiling, I want you to think of lifting each single vertebra on its own. So again, if you think of that bicycle chain, we're not just going to lift the whole chain. Each link wants to come up off of the floor on its own. So how high you come is going to depend on any stiffness you have in your back. Maybe you suffer with sciatica, or lots of different reasons for being low versus being high. But one of the main points you need to be aware of is that you're not putting the weight into your neck or your head. So you can see I could lift my head up if I wanted to. So just be aware that your neck is nice and relaxed and there's no weight in your head. All the weight is across the back of the shoulders. So this is when I try to find as much to talk about as I can, so I can hold you there for a long time, and all this blood is rushing to these big muscles in the body, and it's just a fantastic way to warm your body up. The only thing is, when I record videos, I have to do it with you, so we're in it together. Now, from here, your two hip bones, what you want to check is that one hasn't dropped. So if you do, for example, suffer with sciatica on one side, you might find that that glute doesn't function as well. So it's not maybe working as well as the other one. So just really focus on trying to squeeze that hip up as well, so both your hips are level. Taking a breath in, we're all done. As you breathe out, keep squeezing your hips up, but I want you to start dropping your heart. So think of that bicycle chain again. Each single vertebra is coming down on its own. You want to try and get your lower back down before the bum cheeks. Now, if you suffer with a really stiff back, or perhaps you've got some fused spines, vertebrae, you might find that that's quite hard to put that lower back down. But I want you to really try, because you are still innervating those muscles. Even if it doesn't physically happen, you're still speaking to those muscles. So you're still getting benefit from it. So we're just going to do one more. Take a breath in. As you exhale, hug the tummy in, send your lower back to the floor. Relax your shoulders, chin towards the throat. From here, squeezing your bum, send your hips up towards the ceiling as much as you can without going into your weight, without going into your neck or your head. So some people say we'll go a little bit higher. But just be aware that you're not coming into your throat area. So you want to drop your heart and let the lift come from the bum cheeks and the back of the legs. Relax your shoulders. Again, you can have your hands there. And be aware that the knees aren't opening up. The knees want to stay in alignment with this. So often you might feel this pulling either on the outside of the hip or the outside of the knee. And that is stretching muscles that need to be stretched. So that's why. And then as you exhale, start to drop the shoulders, the upper spine, the middle spine. So really pull that belly button in, pull it in, pull it in. Lower back comes down before the bum. And then if your legs are like me, you are really feeling it in the back of the legs. So just give yourself a little hug or do whatever feels nice. Really start to listen like, oh, what would feel quite nice right now? And we are going to roll onto the side to come up into seated position. And we are going to take this into a little bit more stretching, but directly into that lower back. So just make sure you haven't got anything behind you in case you fall over. Pull my pants up, my trousers, depends what country you're in. So a lot of people can find sitting with legs bent really uncomfortable. So you can also have the legs straight. So just pick whichever one allows you to sit up nice and tall. And also you can experiment with toes down versus toes up. That will impact the movements as well. So just find one that's feels okay for you. So we'll sit nice and tall. Now, if you're going to have your legs straight, this will be a little bit more challenging for you, but you just don't go as far. So you will have your hands out to the front of you if you are sitting with your legs straight. I'm going to have the legs bent. Hands behind the legs, sit nice and tall. Relax your shoulders. Now, I want you to think of your collarbones. Most people are quite weak in the upper back, so they tend to be a bit like that. So if you lift your collarbones, we'll come into a very slight thoracic extension. So we're not working in a neutral spine. When we come into this little thoracic extension, hopefully you can feel those muscles working. And that's what we most of us need, including myself. So it's just like getting a little bit more bang for your buck when we sit in this position. So pulling those shoulders down, take a deep inhale. Now as you breathe out, hug the tummy in. Start to bring yourself off of your sitting bone. So I'm not just lying back. The tummy, the core, is actually helping to tilt my pelvis backwards to come off of the sitting bones, then towards the coccyx. So some people may need to stop here, or you might be able to go a little bit further. But I just want you to feel in your back the stretch. So it's not so much about, oh, I can go all the way back. I really want you to stretch, really hug in. Think of your rib cage and your hip bones trying to come closer together. And then your head will just naturally drop into position. So you don't want to keep the head up. Your gaze will be towards the floor or the legs somewhere. So just drawing in the tummy. On the next inhale or exhale, whichever one feels better for you, bring yourself back up, grow nice and tall, and then lift those collarbones again as you drop your shoulders down the back. So inhale and exhale. Hug the tummy in. Imagine someone's going to take a picture and you're just trying to hide your belly. So draw it in, draw it in, draw it in, and then inhale as you come back up again. And hopefully you can feel a little bit of a stretch in the lower back. And exhale. And if the breathing confuses you, just don't listen to my cueing about the breath. Most important thing is that you are breathing. Come back up again. I'm just going to do one with the straight legs and straight arms. So if this is your variation, we've just got one more. Tuck the tailbone under. And then inhale as you come back up again. And then release. So the last little exercise we're going to do, so you'll want to have your cushion for this. I'm going to use a block. So depending on how your back feels and how your hips feel will dictate how big a block you'll use. Okay? So you're going to pop it under the bum. And then when you come into this position, we'll have the legs straight. So you might find, once you're in this position, that, oh, the block is too low or too high. You just don't want the block on your spine, okay, because it will hurt, won't be very nice. It needs to be under your bum/pelvis, somewhere around there. So I tend to like it a little bit more towards my coccyx. And then just have a feel, so that feels better for me. So the area we're focusing on is this area here, just giving it a stretch. And you've got some muscles that are connected to the inside of your thigh bone. They run through your pelvis and they attach to either side of the lower back. So we're just working on stretching off those muscles. So that is why your lower back is connected to your thighs, your hips, which is why we need to stretch off both. So just because we doing lower back work doesn't mean we must ignore this one. So if you want to, you can take your legs wide and just gently flump them in and out. Just, you don't want to be rough with yourself, gently. You might notice funny sensations here, or you might feel it at the back of the pelvis. So just observe, don't have any judgment. You know, so for me, I know I get a lot of issues on my right side, in my right back and my right hip. So for me, this is like where it really highlights when you do have these imbalances. So just feeling that. Good. And then bring the legs back to the center. Now, if you are quite high and this is causing you lots of discomfort, you can do the next part on the floor if you want to, or just make your cushion a little bit smaller. So unless you're being diagnosed with some back issues, if it's discomfort down either side of the spine, then this is doing you good. So try and, we're not going to be here too long if I stop talking. Right, so bring that left knee up. Now, if you've had a hip replacement, that knee doesn't want to go past the line of the hip. This is just a blanket caution. Maybe your consultant has said something different, so you go by what your consultant has said. There are so many different kinds of hip replacements, but this is just a blanket caution. So knee doesn't go past the hip, and your other leg you're trying to reach away. So all we are trying to do is just move the parts of the pelvis, and we're talking about the bones. So we want one hip, the left hip, to come towards the rib cage, and we want the right hip to go away. And then for anybody else that's not had the hip done, you can really hug that left knee in. Now, depending on your hips, notice if your right leg is trying to pop up a little bit. That can indicate there's tightness there. So really try and reach your right leg away, get it active. So drawing in one and sending the other one away from you. Pop the left foot back down onto the floor. Just going to move my block a little bit, and then straighten your left leg. Bring the right knee in towards the chest. Again, if you've had a hip done on this side, leg stays there. If you haven't, you can draw it in. And you might even notice on my leg, like I am actually pulling this in. This is how stuck my right hip is compared to the left one. I often feel like I've got somebody else's hip, and then reach the left leg away. It's so stuck, this one. And then just being aware of tension, I could just feel that front of the hip over there going, "Argh." So just breathe. Sending the left leg away. So again, make sure that left knee is not popping up. We're just going to do one more each side. So pop that right foot down. Slide it away. Slide the left leg in, hug it in towards you. Picking that option if you've got hip replacement. And even notice, like taking the back of the leg, that feels different as well compared to taking the front of the leg. So just experimenting with these things. And this is why when we do our teacher training, like a lot of teachers go, "Oh, that's wrong because you're holding the leg in the wrong place." It's not wrong, it's different. When you really understand anatomy, then you can guide your clients a bit better. And then we'll switch the other leg. Reaching your left leg away from you, just relax inside of that hip. Just notice if your pelvic floor is really clenched or anything around here is quite stiff and tight. Just see if you can make a jelly. And then release the leg back down again. So if you're on a block or something, you can bring yourself off. And then we're going to roll onto the side. Push yourself back up and then bring yourself into a seated position. Just have your legs bent over here. So you can give your knees a little bit of a hug. Quite nice after those leg slides. And then come back to a seated position. Oh, my back feels lovely now. That's one of the joys of doing these videos, is I get to do a lot of exercises. So, oh, excuse me, that was your lower back session. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope your back feels so much better. Again, regularity with these, with all the kinds of videos that I do. That's why I do small little videos, so that you can fit these in every day. And again, try not to think of it as exercise, think of it as movement. How can I gift my body with releasing some of these aches and pains? So take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.